Two environmental groups organize various activities to promote love of nature and conservation. Joining us now in studio is the founder and managing director of Eco Explorations and Philippine Parks and the Biodiversity, Nella Lomotan. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Paolo, and thank you for having me.
So Nella, first of all, a lot of people are wondering how can someone as young as you do what you're doing right now? You actually shifted from corporate life to full-time being a conservationist, battling and really working for biodiversity here in the country.
Yeah.
First off, the shift, why so?
I think, when you find your calling and purpose, it's not something that's really, you don't actively seek it, it's just given to you. And so, parang for me, as the Philippines, one of the most mega biodiverse countries in the world, an archipelago of more than 7,000 islands, I explored the Philippines, and it was there that I really saw, what kind of nature we had, the natural assets, how beautiful our country is, how rich we are in nature and culture, but also the people on ground, meeting them, the communities. It was really getting to know them that, it really became clear to me that I had to do something to uplift also their lives while they conserve the environment.
There are a lot of points that I want to talk about there about what you just said, especially let's go first with the fact that you did travel the Philippines, that you did see the diversity yourself. You did that while you were still in your corporate life.
Yes.
Of course, it changed your perspective, I'm sure, but what was the key moment, siguro, that made you feel that, okay, this needs protecting, I need to make that shift, I need to commit my life to this?
So, like you pointed out, so when I was doing the corporate job, I was handling CSR. So I was still involved with advocacies. But there was one trip, so I would actually go every weekend. It's like kind of my break, where I would go every weekend, whether it's hiking, kayaking, exploring the country. And there was one trip where I did a 3-day kayak. So I was kayaking around Busuanga Island in Palawan. And no boats are able to go to one of the tips there, one of the really furthest locations of Busuanga because of the waves. And we were able to go there through a kayak. And I met the indigenous community there. And what really stuck me, this was one of the turning points, was because we went there and they showed us the water that they were drinking. And it was very dirty. And I asked, of course, I'll say this in English. She wasn't speaking in English. And I asked at the time, like, the conditions. And they were like, sanay na po kami kasi ka dyan. Ganyan lang talaga ang buhay. And I couldn't bear that they're just used to that condition. That for them, it's something that they just grew up with. And so I wanted to do my part and, travel to remote areas, but make a difference and help the communities that live in them.
Well, community is a big part of all of your efforts here. In fact, in your pillars, it says one of them is to protect and empower. And I'm sure it's not just about the environment, it's about the people around it. You have two organizations that we're going to talk about, the Eco Explorations and Philippine Parks and Biodiversity. First and foremost, what makes them different? And at the same time, how do they complement each other?
So Eco Explorations, our mission is to conserve the Philippines' natural and cultural heritage and biodiversity through sustainable tourism and socio-economic impact, and also providing education. And so when I first established it, it was focused on providing all of these educational, immersive experiences to natural areas that conserve the environment. So it's a social enterprise. And along the way, because, there would be private sector companies and also various individuals who wanted to support our work through donations and grants, then we established the Philippine Parks and Biodiversity, which is really focused on all of our impact projects. So right now we have reforestation, which is one of our biggest projects to date, hand in hand with the Philippine government as well. And so it complements each other because our ecotourism, we use the proceeds to funnel to our various impact projects through our nonprofit environmental conservation organization.
Well, one of the pillars that you also have is connect and inspire. And sometimes when people are talking about the environment, especially when they start to fall in love with it, sometimes they're too inspired. Minsan yung tourism is a bit harmful. How are your efforts more sustainable? And of course, how does it funnel into the education needed to make sure na sustainable yung tourism na ginagawa natin?
Right. So I just also want to provide some context that sometimes there's a misconception on what ecotourism in the country is. You know, like, if, for example, just traveling to a natural area and they already think that's ecotourism. But I just want to highlight that ecotourism is responsible travel to natural areas, which conserves the environment, sustains the well-being of the local people and provides education and interpretation. And so we can't really say that it's ecotourism just because, I went hiking, I went bird watching, when in fact, some of the people who actually go to these natural areas, how can you say that you're practicing responsible ecotourism when you're disturbing the wildlife? One time I went camping in this protected area, and then people until 3 a.m. were blasting sounds like it was a party. And so, of course, you're disturbing the wildlife there by doing that. And it also doesn't do any positive impact. And so we need to remember that ecotourism, at the core of it, it has to have positive impacts for the environment and the communities. And that's what we're doing for eco-explorations. For example, our different ecotourism activities, they work hand in hand with the local communities. We empower them and provide green jobs through livelihood, and that in turn helps them protect the environment. And at the same time, we bring people there and educate them about the importance of the forests, the ocean.
Yeah.
What should we do as travelers and citizens of the country, and do our part in protecting it. And it's not just about visiting a place. That's not just what ecotourism is all about.
Well, of course, a lot of people, I'm sure, have reached out to you wanting to help out in your efforts. You've gone all around the world talking about your efforts. Let's focus here because we're running out of time. When people come out to help you or people want to reach out for you, obviously they do it via your social medias. For those wondering, do follow her on social media. But what do you find yourself educating them most on with regards to making sure that their efforts are directed to the right place, that they're not too misguided, that syempre, they end up helping more than harming? Because minsan, some people are overly passionate about the way they want to help.
Right. So, like you pointed out, I really do believe that it starts with education. If you want to help out, then you also need to do your part in researching. So, for example, because I'm focused on reforestation, there's this misconception that, people just join tree planting and they think that's, wow, I did my part. I planted this tree. I did my part in helping the environment. But what they don't know is that tree planting is just 10% of the job. You actually need forest rangers on the ground who are working with, who protect it, maintain all of these planted seedlings daily. They do their rounds in forest protection and restoration. They essentially kind of live in the mountains already doing their jobs. And so that's you really need to also do your own part in researching the organizations that you volunteer to, that you support, that it's really, we're looking into the projects that have long-term sustainable impact and solutions. And it's not just, I did my part because I planted a tree and that's it, I'm done. So it really also boils down to, if you want to help, that's a great start because, there's initiative, but also we want to make sure that it's directed towards the right causes. Yeah,
you reference one of your projects that you're most proud of, the Sport Ranger program. And of course, we'll give this opportunity to you to reach out to everyone who wants to support you guys and wants to contact you and of course try to collaborate with you. You can do so right over there.
Right. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's never been more clear to us, especially we just went through another typhoon recently and we saw the devastating impacts to that, and it's very important for us to protect our natural assets and the environment and the ecosystem benefits that they're able to provide, protecting us from all of these typhoons, natural disasters, and recently there was a devastating landslide that killed many, and so the mountains are there to protect us, the natural ecosystem, and that's something that we really need to do our own part in protecting. And so I'd like to just make a call to everyone who's here listening, that hopefully through your own organizations or through your own individual efforts, you can support different organizations, not just mine. There's a lot of great organizations that's doing their work in environmental conservation and protection, and hopefully you can really integrate it into your corporate responsibility, because it is our shared responsibility. It's not just something that we need to do, but it really is our obligation to our country.
She is the founder and managing director of Eco Explorations and Philippine Parks and Biodiversity, Nella Lomotan. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much for sharing your insights and your story.
Thank you so much, Paolo. Thank you to Billionaire News Channel.